One thing you need to do sometimes when you're playing rhythm is mute the strings. And by muting, I mean deaden the strings enough so you still hear the note, but it has kind of really muffled sound. Now the way to do this is by taking your right palm and kind of tightly holding it down onto your strings so the notes don't really ring out that well. Let me give you an example of muting. See what my right hand did that time? Now watch, I'm going to do the same thing without muting and watch the difference. Listen to the difference as well. Can you hear it sounds much more open and much bigger? So here's the exercise what I want you to do. I'm going to go back and forth from muting to not muting. Watch my right hand and watch the palm. Now you're going to have to get your tuners back out for this one. This is a technique called detuning, and it's really common in ultra-heavy music. And the thing to do is get your tuner out and take your low E string and tune it down until the D light on your tuner lights up. And once the D light on your tuner lights up, tune it normally to D, so the meter reads exactly in the middle and the lights all light up evenly, just like I showed you with the other strings. So it's going to sound something like this. So your E string is going to sound really low, but the good thing about that is you can play chords totally simply with like one finger or even no fingers. Check this out. Totally easy, but sounds really heavy and very manly. Okay, I'm going to give you some examples of some phrases that are typical to particular styles of music. Like in rock music, a real common phrase is to take like one of those mini bar chords and strum it like this. Now all you need to do is strum the 6th string and the 5th string straight over and over like that, and then alternate with your little finger stretching out to here like that, which at the beginning is kind of a stretch, but you will get used to it. So a rock pattern would look something like this. Now the same exact chords, if you were in a heavy metal band, would be played a little bit differently. It looks something like this. You'd get rid of this thing with your little finger and you would slide back and forth with these chords. Let me show you. And also with your right hand, you would kind of hold the strings a little bit tighter to give it a more clamped down kind of sound. You'll see what I mean. Check it out. That's really a typical heavy metal kind of guitar playing. I mean, it's very easy on the left hand, and the right hand is holding the strings down kind of tight so the notes are kind of deadened a little bit. Now, if you're like in an alternative band or something like that, more of a kind of modern rock or pop music, what they like to do a lot in that type of music is use a lot of open strings, so the strings kind of clang around and jangle a lot and give it a real kind of a, not a folky sound, but just a real kind of open string sound of guitar, and that's become real popular lately. And if you were to take those same two chords, which were A and B, and play it in an alternative style, you might use a strumming style like this and these two chords. Check it out. I showed you how to arpeggiate a chord doing rhythm. Now I'm going to show you how to arpeggiate a chord doing a solo. Now it's really simple. You just take a chord and play the notes one at a time. This is a real common way to do it with the chord A minor. Something that you have to do when you're playing a solo or a melody or sometimes even on rhythm is something that's called hammering on. Now, hammering on is like this. You need two fingers to do it. You start with one finger that's down on the fretboard like this. You pick it. And then after you pick it, you take another finger and without picking the note, kind of as if it were a hammer, bring it down to the fretboard. So you get something like this. You can see the advantage of this is I only pick once and I get two notes. And when you're playing a lot of notes eventually, you'll see why not picking so many notes is really a good thing to do. So hammering on is making your finger like a hammer and bringing it down without picking. Now, the opposite of hammering on is called pulling off, which is pretty self-explanatory. You just pull off the same way you hammered on. You start with your third finger down and you pull off, only picking once. Okay, a lot of people try to pull off straight up or towards them. The trick is to pull off away from you. Almost as if this finger is a pick and you're going. Pretend this finger's a pick and you're using it to pull away from the string. That's the best way to think about that. So hammering on and pulling off, I'll give you a couple exercises for that. Then maybe move over to the next string. Work with those exercises for a little while and you'll get the hang of hammering on and pulling off pretty quickly. Basic lead playing is basically just connecting a lot of lead patterns. And what a pattern is a bunch of notes that repeat in some kind of order. So let's take a few of these patterns and I'll show you how to practice them so you can get them smoothly and gradually get cleaner and cleaner and better and better. So the first one uses that pulling off technique I was talking to you about. We're going to start with our fingers in this position here and we're going to pull off on the second string. And then on the third string, pick this. That's a really common lead pattern. When you hear it, it's usually played a little bit faster. But that's the way it's done. It's just that simple. Just do it really, really slowly and build up to speed. And don't even really worry about speed right now. Just get your fingers around these licks and just be able to play it. Speed will come natural. Okay, playing basic lead is basically about making variations of licks because really there's only so many licks, but there's a million ways to change them around. So let's take the lick that we just did a minute ago and let's move it over to the next two strings. Instead of being right here, let's move it into these strings and frets here. So it's going to start on the 7th fret on the 3rd string, and the stretch isn't going to be quite so bad. It's going to be looking like this. So if you get it repeating, it's going to sound like this. Okay, if you want to take that one further and make a variation of that, let's just do 2 pull-offs and go like this. If you want to take that variation one step further, we can alternate these things that we just learned. So we go like this. And if you really want to be rad, stick them all together. That's what variations is all about. An expressive voice that the lead guitar player has is done by bending a string. Now this kind of gives your guitar kind of almost a crying sound, and you hear it all the time, and it really makes a solo stand out or a melody stand out, and it's very cool. It's done like this. The B string is probably the easiest string to bend, so let's bend that first. The idea is to make it sound like this. Okay, you're starting from this note, and you want to make the pitch go all the way up to this note. You don't want it to go too high or too low. You want it exactly from here to here. So you get... Now you're noticing also that my first and second finger are also down on the string, giving it support. You'll find it's much easier to bend like this than just with your third finger. Even I can barely do that. It's very unnatural. So keep these down. Don't hold them down too tight. Just leave them there to support the string. And that's the idea. Once you get to the pitch you want, shake the string a little bit. Now you were probably wondering what I was talking about when I said take the note and shake it on that last segment. Basically what that shaking is called vibrato, and that's what makes the note sound listenable. If you don't use it, it just sounds terrible. It just doesn't sound good. You got to give it like a human element, kind of a voice, kind of a vibration. Now, to practice vibrato, you got to take it to different strings and do the same exact thing on the G string. Go going from this note to this. So you get, when you reach the note that you want, shake it. Keeping your first and second finger down for support. Now, you don't have to be bending a string to get vibrato. Sometimes you can just play a note and vibrate it that way. So do it like this as well. See how my finger goes back and forth? It goes back this way just about as much as it goes forth this way. It doesn't go all the way down here like that or all the way up here. It goes evenly this way and that way, creating a pleasant sound. So to practice this, do all these techniques together slowly, one at a time. Now, any note that you play, you can put vibrato on like this. Practice it with each finger. And don't worry if it doesn't sound so great at the beginning. It takes a little bit of time, but it's something that you definitely have to have. And it also gives each person their own originality, too. So really listen closely when you do it. Okay, another common thing to do as a lead guitar player is what's called a trill. And a trill is basically a succession of pull-offs. And if you look at it slowly, it looks like this. If you notice, I only picked the very first one. I didn't keep picking after that. And the way you often hear it is quite fast. And if you do it slowly and work your way up, you can get speed like that. But something to do with trills is there's an easier way to do a trill, and it's only with one finger. Say like on the G string, just take your first finger, and on the second fret, just pull it off and keep pulling off. It's a very common thing to do, and kind of fun sometimes. The most commonly used scale in playing lead guitar is the basic blues scale, I like to call it. And some people call it the Bach scale, some people call it the pentatonic scale. I think you should just refer to it as the blues scale because it just sounds like blues when you play it. And these are the notes that are in the scale, and you have to kind of memorize the shape of these notes. So I'll play them slowly for you. And then back down. This is the basic blues scale in A because it started on the A note here. If you remember E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. So this is the blues scale in A. So if I were to do the whole same thing here, that would be the blues scale in G. Just a little bit of information that you need to know. Anyway, practice going up and down this scale and just get comfortable with the way the notes sound. And if you notice, some of those repeating licks that I did before were right in that scale. Very important stuff to remember. Basic blues scale, you will be seeing a lot of it. Like I said before, basic soloing is often just connecting a bunch of patterns together. The same thing goes with scales. When you're in this blues scale, like I was talking to you about this one, and you're kind of going in and out of those notes, what you want to do to make yourself sound a little bit smarter, a little bit more advanced, is do kind of like a blues scale part 2, I like to call it. It's a little bit more advanced. There's a couple more notes in it, but let me show them to you because it's no more difficult than the first one. It's the same blues scale I just showed you with a few more notes in between. Check it out. I'll play it really slow. So instead of, it's kind of got notes in between. And back down looks like this. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Another scale that you'll need to know is a minor scale. This one we'll do in A minor because we just did some blues scales in A. And so this A minor scale looks like a variation of those blues scales. It's really simple. It looks similar to what we did before, but just a little bit different, so follow closely. Going back down will look like this. And a way to be able to tell these scales apart from each other is take little sections of them that are characteristic of that scale and work on those. Like the first couple strings of this scale. Just get used to the way that sounds and remember that that's a minor scale. But the terminology is not so important. Just getting your fingers on the strings and listening to it is. All right, you heard me talk about the blues scale, and you heard me talk about the minor scale. And maybe you're thinking, why isn't he mentioning the major scale? Well, there's a reason for that. I mean, the major scale, it just doesn't sound that cool for rock guitar. It's not really inspiring. I mean, when I think of the major scale, I think of like Jingle Bells or Mary Had a Little Lamb or some songs like that. And it's just not the most cool thing to pick up a guitar and play when you're beginning. You want to do stuff that just sounds a little bit more rock to your ear. So I'm going to leave that out. But what I am going to do is I'm going to stay in the same key of A like we've been, and I'm going to show you like 5 patterns, repeating patterns that you can practice slowly, one at a time, and gradually build up a little speed. That doesn't mean you have to be extremely fast on this stuff. Just build up enough speed so things repeat with some sense of rhythm to it. Doesn't have to be fast at all. Just slow and even is all I need you to do. So let's take some of these patterns and I'll explain them as we go along. Check it out. Okay, that one used the pull-off technique that we talked about a little while ago. This one also uses the pull-off technique, but I'm going to do it with two different fingers, so check it out. It's all going to be on this high E string. It's going to look like this. The idea of this is to build up the control with your third finger just as strong as with your second finger. So when you get a rhythm going, it's going to sound a little bit like this. Okay? And a variation of that would be to move the exact same thing to the next string across, the B string. So it would look like this. So together they would look like this. Very slowly it would look like this. Okay? Another thing that is a real common lead pattern is bending and pulling off. There's two ways to do it. You can pull off to the last note, or you can pick the last note. Pull off. Pick. This is really important, and it's going to build up some strength in your fingers. So if you repeat it, it's going to be. It's going to be like that. Okay? Another one would be something that's going to get all three fingers working together. Something like this. The idea of that is to get your fingers working independently, and it's easy to move this thing around. So you can do this pattern on any of the strings in the scale that I showed you. So the way to practice these things is very slowly and get a rhythm going with them, and try as many variations as you possibly can using these scale configurations that I showed you. It's really not that difficult. The whole thing is don't be discouraged. Just play it really slowly and try to keep the unwanted noise out. Just play slowly and as clean as you possibly can. Keep a rhythm going. That's the way to do it. Another picking technique that you might want to try is called alternate picking, which just means you pick up and down, up and down, up and down in that sort of pattern. Some people pick it up really naturally, some people don't, and it's really not important that you master this and play it all the time. I'm just giving you an option of a different way to pick, and sometimes it sounds pretty neat. But let's do a real simple exercise for alternate picking. Let's go into our A scale, our A minor scale, and play these two notes. Notice that my right hand is picking up and down each time. And if you want to make it a little bit trickier, you can add two more notes into it. So. picking up songs off of albums. It seems impossible, and it's really not. It's really not that difficult. The way to do it is to find songs that you know pretty well that have parts in them that repeat over and over and over again. A simple pattern, a chord progression, something that sounds very simple to your ear. It doesn't change quickly, just something that keeps doing the same thing over and over again. What you do is you get your guitar in tune and you play along with it. And you kind of fish around for chords until they sort of sink in there. And when it seems to sound right to your ear, that means you're onto something. And if something repeats enough, then you're going to have time to pick up what the chord changes are in it, believe it or not. And it's not important that you play every little part that you hear, like every little solo phrase or every little rhythm lick or anything that you hear popping in and out. What's important is that you can just play along from one part to the end of the next part. That's all. You don't have to fill in all the blanks. Just play a simple chord change throughout the whole part. I'll give you an example of that right now. So it's simple, keep it simple, something that repeats over and over again, gives you time to figure out what it is. There's a lot of albums out there that are going to help you play guitar. You just got to find the right ones with easy guitar on them. And stuff that's easy to play, you feel good, you get it done, in a quick period of time. It's not brain surgery, it's not very difficult. But if you start out learning stuff like Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and this really progressive stuff, you're going to get discouraged because it just ain't that simple. But there are a lot of albums out there that you should check out. Some of them are, okay, let's see, Green Day has a lot of great albums. I think the biggest hit was called Dookie, and that's a good album for easy guitar. Offspring has an album called Smash. The Donnas has an album called Get Skin Tight, that's really good. And what else? The Ramones. Any Ramones album is going to be good for easy guitar. There's a good compilation of the Ramones called All the Stuff and More. You should get that and just play straight through it. All the songs have nothing but bar chords in them. Aside from that, you should get maybe the Eagles' Greatest Hits 1 and 2. And those have a lot of G chords, D chords, and C chords in them, and you'll be able to pick them out pretty easily. And start with those, and anything that's like that and closer to the type of music that you want to play, go check them out. All right, here is an example of how to play along with a song on an album. Now, first of all, you want to pick a simple song, either one that you can pick out the backing chords by yourself or have somebody show you the backing chords or whatever. But the main thing is, again, I have to stress, you do not need to play every single part of the song. You don't need to play the lead solos or the melodies or anything. Just be able to keep a chord going behind the whole back of the song, and that's pretty much your goal. And you'll move up from there, but don't worry about all the little parts. Just be able to hold down some kind of chord in the background. So let's jam it. if you ever want to develop a sense of timing, you need to get this thing called a metronome. And it comes in various shapes and sizes. Most of them are little small boxes, and they make a continuous beat. And with this beat, you should play along with it all the things that you're working on, whether it be rhythm or lead or any type of thing, chord changes. I'll give you a couple examples of things that you can use a metronome for to practice. Let me give you some advice about using your practice time. Don't waste your time practicing. Don't sit around 8 hours a day playing guitar, noodling around. All you really need is about an hour a day. If you can stick to that every day, or even less, a half hour will do fine if you're focused on what it is you're doing. Now, things you should avoid is like being distracted, like playing guitar in front of the TV, just noodling around, not really having an aim to what you're doing. Just be focused on what you want to do. Have a goal, Today I want to learn this song. Today I want to work on this song. Today I want to work on changing chords smoothly, or any of the techniques that we've gone over. Have a goal for each day and get in there and do it. And even if you only spend a half hour a day on it, that's a lot better than a guy sitting around 6 hours just wanking off. A lot of guitar players waste a ton of time learning a bunch of stuff that is completely useless to them, only because they think they have to learn it, because their friends are doing it, or because they think you're going to get good by doing something. The only thing that you really need to learn is the music that you like. Concentrate on the music that you like. And if it's difficult music, then of course you're going to have to learn simpler things along the way, but try to find music that you like that is not too hard on guitar, so you get encouraged as you learn, you know what I mean? If it just seems too depressing if you try to learn these hard things and you can't do it. Find simple stuff that you particularly like, that you want to learn, and make that your goal. Don't learn what you think is going to make you good. Learn what you like to hear, and then you'll enjoy your guitar playing a lot more. Having a guitar teacher is a really good investment for a beginning guitarist. And even if you can't afford to have one every week or every month or so, if you can get a lesson every once in a while, it's really going to help you out at the beginning stages. Now, you got to be really careful. There's a lot of guys teaching, and a lot of guys don't really teach you what it is you want to learn. They teach you what they can teach best. You got to shop around, man. You got to find guys who are going to teach you exactly the kind of music you like and get you on the right track. You don't want to go to some teacher wanting to learn how to play rock, and the guy wants to teach you country or jazz or something else that you can't stand. So, take a lesson here and there, and, if you like the teacher, if he teaches you the way you want to learn, then stick around. If not, you can go somewhere else and find someone who's going to suit you better. Let me tell you how I improved when I was a beginning guitarist. I didn't practice a whole lot. I practiced about an hour or a half hour a day, not really much more than that. And I practiced really simple music. But I think what helped me the most was I put myself in high-pressure situations all the time. Like, just when I could barely play anything at all, I was already trying to jam with other guys who were better than I was, just to, learn how they played and watch other people play and just figure out stuff and steal licks from guys and stuff like that. And I think that is really, really important. Being able to get in front of other people, and even though you don't think you're all that good, just acting like you have some confidence, like you know how to play. Acting like you have confidence almost is as good as actually having the confidence. And then before you know it, you've got the confidence. So sometimes you just got to get in front of people and jam. you got to get into a band. You got to get into a band as soon as you possibly can. Even if you can barely stand up with a guitar, you got to get into a band. Because I tell you, when you learn by playing in a band and you make a mistake in front of people, you're going to correct that mistake so much faster than how fast you'd correct it if you were in your bedroom making a mistake. So get into a band right away. So finding band members, it's really not that hard. You can find people at your school who also play guitar or another instrument, or you can like find people on the bulletin board looking for other musicians to jam with, or you can put an ad up yourself saying, I'm a beginning guitarist, I want to join a band or form a band, and just jam with everybody who comes along, you know, and you'll weed out the people who you like and people who have similar musical taste to you, and just don't rule out anything, you know. Try jamming with everybody. You'd be really surprised what you learn along the way. Most likely before you find an actual band to jam in, you'll find like another guitar player or a bass player that you can jam, you know, 2 guys at a time or something. And what you want to do is just be a cool dude, you know. Take turns playing each other's favorite songs and learn like what that guy likes to play and let him know what you already know, and kind of trade information with each other and stuff like that. And always try to find someone who you think is better than you are. You know, it's just like playing tennis. You know, you want to play with somebody who's better than you are, so the game is interesting and challenging, and just don't let that guy know that he's better than you are, because he probably thinks you're better than him. So it's really a mental thing, but try to stick around guys who you think are better than you are. And, you know, just be fair, you know. Try to learn what that guy likes to play, and, you know, don't be ashamed to show him that you don't know everything, you know. Just jam with people and have fun, and that's the way you work your way up. Once you're able to play a whole song from beginning to end, that means you're pretty much ready to join a band. So when you do actually find the band, you got to remember that a band is like a sports team, you know what I mean? It's all about teamwork. It's not about you anymore. It's about a team. So, you know, just have common courtesy when you're playing in a band. Don't like turn your guitar so loud that nobody else can hear themselves. And just be a cool guy, you know, and try to learn the songs that the other guys want to learn as well as your songs. And you'll find that you make a lot more friends along the way and a lot more musicians. And never let on that you think that you're not much of a good player, you know. Keep kind of an attitude of like, yeah, I can do that. Even if maybe you can't, just act like you can and people will believe it. So that's really good advice when you're in a band. And believe me, I'm doing that even right now as we speak. There are many, many ways to write songs. There's so many ways that I cannot even count them. But I'm going to give you a very general rule of writing a simple song. There are 3 parts. The first part is called the verse. And that's like a chord pattern or a chord progression, something that repeats where you start to tell the story of the song. The second part is called the bridge. It's kind of like the middle section, getting you ready for the big punchline of the song. And the third part, the main part, is the chorus. And that's what the title of the song is. So you basically need 3 guitar parts to write a simple song. I mean, you can do it with less, but the most simple basic structure is verse, bridge, chorus. And each one of those has a different chord progression, or like a chord change, like similar to the stuff that I jammed along with before, where you play 2 or 3 chords and you repeat, you repeat, you repeat. So that's one way to write songs, is create them like that. Another way, which is very common, is to learn a song and change a couple notes around, change a couple chords around, and make it your own. And you would be very surprised, you know, when you listen to songs and you say, hey, that song sounds like another song I know. That's because the guys who wrote that song just sort of copied it from another song and changed 1 or 2 notes around here and there. So you can do that too. Probably the coolest thing about being in a band is getting gigs, being able to play live, go out and do some shows. Once you got a band together and you can play 20 or 30 minutes at a time, you know a bunch of songs. They don't have to be perfect, but you can play, you know, okay, you can get your way through a song. It's time to do some gigs. Just start right away, you know. That's the way to build up some confidence. Put some pressure on, get out there and play in front of people. Some of the best beginning gigs to get are at your high school or junior high school. Your auditorium or lunchroom, whatever, play at lunchtime for free, or high school dance or whatever, and just do it, because half the audience is going to be chicks. right from the start, 50%. That is a high percentage. I mean, people in professional bands play mostly to guys all the time, you know, but if you play in your junior high or your high school, half the people there are already chicks, so you got a good thing going for you. Aside from that, there's other gigs that you can set up. You know, you can play like in the local Legion Hall, you can rent it out for a couple $100. You buy a couple kegs of beer, and you charge people a few dollars to get in. They're drinking the beer, and you play in front of these people. You create your own gigs. You create your own shows. And even if the band is not that good, this is the way you improve. This is the way you make yourself a musician. Not by practicing in your bedroom, you know, because guys could practice for years in the bedroom, and then once they get in front of people, they freeze up, you know. So I say that you should get in front of people and play live from as early as possible. It's really, really a good thing to do. So set these things up yourself. I mean, sometimes bowling alleys will have a night where you can come in there and have your band jam, you know, or the Lodge or Legion Hall, anything like that. So make it happen. Get out there and play as a band as soon as you can. Now that wasn't so difficult, was it? I'm glad you made it to the end of this video. Now you have all the information that you need to play guitar, join a band, all that cool stuff. You know, if you keep doing this, you're going to develop your own style, and you're really going to become a good guitar player because you have a solid foundation to start off with. But for now, just have fun, get out there and rock, and I'll see you on tour.